kind of conversation. And now with what's happening, it's become less of an intellectual, cognitive kind of conversation, and people are starting to take it to heart in terms of what it really means, and the reality of that. So I think there's been a shift, and the shift has really come to the fore over the last 6 months. Yes. In corporates as well, so it's not just a global consciousness, it's actually in organizations, and leaders are starting to talk quite differently about things in their organizations.
Do you find that, Faiza?
Yeah, I think in my opinion, what's happened is that after a very long time, people have collectively experienced vulnerability all across the world together. And I think that too has kind of given them the confidence to speak about it a little bit more openly. Because I think up until a few years ago, being vulnerable wasn't really considered a quality at all. If anything, people tried to hide their vulnerabilities, thinking that it's a sign of weakness. But I think somehow this experience has told people that we're all vulnerable and it's okay to be that. And, so let's all decide how do we get out of it together. And that is why I think people are more comfortable having these deeper conversations now more than ever before.
Wonderful. Billy, welcome. Yeah, sorry, Will. Hi.
Hi there, sorry I'm a bit early.
Welcome.
Sorry, I'm gonna switch off my video just to use voice.
Okay, the Wi-Fi.
My experience when I was working, I was at Shell for quite some years, and Shell was predominantly English company, and so even though it was in South Africa, so the transformation started, and we had to start with and that was in actually 1999, I think, somewhere there, where this talking of soul and conscious was not much there. It was all about bottom line. If you're not doing this and they didn't care about anything else, make the money. So I was part of the transformation forum where we had the CEO in the room, and we took him for a drive to where some of the best operators in the company stay, and to see the environment and the vulnerability in their lives, the challenges they go through. Before we started, we got back another day. He sat down and he says, you know what? We need to connect with human beings at a different level than just looking at them as colleagues, as simple as that.
Right.
So my consciousness and the connecting to the soul began then at the corporate level.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, it's very exciting, and I think also for all of us to be, or for most of us on the call right now, to be in the seat of OD learning and development, that in a way we're the voices, and we are the, I don't know, I call us the light workers here to really help, I think, take hold of this opportunity and then to leverage it and to kind of make this light bigger. So now that we've got the opening, it's how do we really access it and really shift people to the next level. I always have the strong opinion around the light and darkness within each of us, within every system. And you just need a little bit of light to shine on the dark to really create greater light and then to overcome that darkness. And as we can see, and I think Paul was relating to that as well earlier on, that there is certain darknesses when we look at what's happening in some places in the world, and of course with COVID as well, that it's there, and there is good and bad, and that if we can come in with more light and raise consciousness, I really feel that now's our time. And that's my connection to Lumina, is that I just feel that I can anchor all of my deep rooted belief systems, around really activating kindness. That's my kind of core purpose and mission. So the whole aspect around integrating neuroscience and letting go of judgment and letting people really step into the world of the other to really see, who are you? I'm okay, you're okay, let's talk. So Yeah, I'm just looking at the time now. I think it's exactly 12 o'clock. So I'm going to start. And thank you for everybody joining, everyone who's here. I can see now Lisa, Vicky, I need to put my glasses on, Rana, Tanisha, a lot of you, thank you so much for being here. I'd love to hear from all of you, but I am also focused on the limitations of time. So to try and get the voices and the impact from everyone, I'm going to share my screen and just going to ask you a question, kind of why did you choose to be here and what is it that you really want from this session today? So what I've done is I've prepared an overview of Lumina. In fact, I'll just show you what I've prepared quickly. So we've said it's Discover Lumina, so I'm assuming that's why you're here. And my plan was for us to find out where you're at, but also what are the key issues and challenges that are present right now for you in your life, but also that you're seeing with your clients professionally. I also want to share some of the Lumina research. We've done quite a expansive global research around looking at the impact of COVID at many levels, obviously including personality and emotional stability, things like that. So I'm going to share just high level some of those results because of time, but if people are interested, I'm happy to run a separate webinar just on those results and to see what it means for us as practitioners and how we can work with that. So let's look at what are the key problems we're working with. So my view is that there's a real role for Lumina right now in terms of the technology that we use, the whole system and processes. So I want to share that with you and then really to have a look at some of our solutions, how we apply them, and then to discuss, what's their relevance? Is there relevance for you? How do you see that you could, utilize these either within your organization, within your team, or as a learning provider? So that's where I'm coming from. That's kind of the hat that I'm wearing, but I'm happy to adapt whatever need be. So I'm going to invite you to go to menti.com. This is the code 7353050. And my question is just really, what are your needs? So I prepared a whole load of things I'm excited to share with you, but I can delete, add new things in according to what you want. So just completely honestly, why are you here? And then we can work with that. Okay. So as you're typing in, it should start appearing on the screen. Lauren, can you see the screen, the menti.com screen?
I can, and the sentences are starting to come up.
Wonderful. So Lauren, if you want to say hi, we work together. Do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much, Nicole. My name is Lauren. I'm also based down here in South Africa, as a couple of the people on the call are today, in Johannesburg, and work with Nicole and the Joburg team here in South Africa, really just supporting the amazing work that Lumina Learning is doing in South Africa and on the African continent and globally. Really excited to be joining the team today and being a part of the conversations.
Fabulous. Thanks so much, Lauren, as always, for great support and work. So we've got to see how the solutions can help, to learn how to market Lumina solutions and to network with the other rest of Lumina community. So that's wonderful. Some people here already using the Lumina methodology and tools. How can I integrate it into my coaching practice? Okay. Okay.
Uh-oh.
So then understand Lumina in detail. Just so I can see the screens, I've got the gallery view up. Okay. Okay, keep writing. That's brilliant. And I'd love to just get a sense, maybe either in the chat, how many of you are not using Lumina currently? So just to say, if you're not using it currently, but you're interested to get a sense of where I hone the conversation at. Okay, so someone's just said that they're new to this world. What's Lumina about? Enhanced knowledge on Lumina. How potentially could it help? Okay. How? Okay. Really? Okay. Okay. So it seems what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of generic around. Just tell me more about Lumina. How can I apply it? How can I use it? So whether you're new to Lumina or you're using it currently, it's just about a deeper dive. So that's great. And Lauren's going to keep an eye on the chat for me. So Lauren, if anything else comes through on the chat, will you just share that?
Will do.
As it comes. Okay, so all right. So what I've planned seems to be still useful, and I'm just going to go to my next question if I can, which is really just asking you what are the current issues that you're facing right now, maybe professionally, but also that you're hearing that your clients are facing. What are they saying they need help with? What shifts maybe have they seen, since COVID came in? Welcome, Nida. I can see you just joined us.
Thank you. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, welcome, welcome. It's Catherine, Tanusha, Rana.
Thanks much.
Amelia, welcome. Per. Hi. Okay, key business financial viability. And I think that's been a big issue in terms of the work that we do. Often people think, is this a priority right now? This is about my financial stability. Are we going to survive through this? What does our new normal look like? How can we recreate our business so that we can survive this? And as we know, the businesses that will thrive and go beyond are the businesses that really are asking those questions around, we cannot do anything in the way that we've done it before. We need to be looking at everything out of a whole new lens. The whole playing field is changed. If we come from the way we've come previously, it's not going to work. So, and I think a lot of the work that we're doing is really about supporting, listening, but working together and helping, putting our hands out to our clients to say, we're with you on this journey, but this is a time where you really need to step up. It's all about now self-awareness. How do we shift leadership? So it's a whole new way of leading into the future through, you were mentioning vulnerability, authenticity, empathy. It's a whole new leader that we're looking at now. How can the leaders really enable agility of mind so that people, whether they're working remotely or not, but that they are engaged, that they're performing, that they're spinning, that they're thinking. Because now we need different thinking more than ever. So it's all about adaptability, innovation. So yeah, thriving in the new normal. Managing uncertainty and building resilience in the face of constantly changing circumstances. So I'm actually loving my resilience work. I developed a resilience workshop for the whole of the Lumina global community. So people are using it in different ways. And since then, I've been working at it in different ways with my clients and just feeling that we are going deeper and deeper. We can start off around looking at practically, what can I do in terms of managing my presence, my beingness through the way I live my life, but through whether it's mindfulness, meditation, healthy eating, exercise, and we know all the impacts of that. But then moving into the power of relationships and connectivity, that's a key kind of cause of resilience, and then going deeper into emotional and mental resilience and connecting to meaning and purpose. And it's just been incredible journeys and just releasing such deep vulnerability. In fact, I just ran a session, what was it? I'm trying to remember the days. I think it was on Monday. I ran a session with an amazing team whereby, you know, some people were even ready to leave, but it wasn't stated until this session where they felt there was enough safety to express that. And then the whole team came forward around, we want to support you, we're here for you. So a lot of this work, especially with Lumina, oh, isn't it wonderful? The multitasking of being at home. So Khali, do you want to just mute yourself, please, darling? Thank you.
Nicole, sorry to jump in. Vicky and Faza are both asking about how they can access the resilience workshop content on the chat.
Okay, so well, once you're qualified with Lumina, so because it integrates a lot of our work with you know, emotional resilience and things like that. So if you're qualified, just let me know. Just send us your email address, and then we can send you all the slides, all the facilitator notes, workbooks, everything. So just let us know. So leadership application execution in the digital office. Okay, great. So it looks, keep sharing these either through here if you can, or if not. Oh, I'm just seeing here, you can't see my screen. I didn't put the share back on. I'm so sorry. All right, now you can see the screen. So we've just got inputs from 4 people so far. So I'd love to hear from more of you around what are the challenges that you're facing. It's just anonymous, whether it's for you or your clients. And I've just been speaking through as some of them have come up. So we've got about the...
Hi Nicole, sorry I've not got the login for Menti, but I can just share.
Thank you. Yeah.
This way, if that's okay. I was thinking about communication. So a lot of leaders have been talking about communication with the team or individual team members. So in a practical sense of how do you
I'm just trying to sharing. Can you just tell us your name?
My name?
Yes.
Sarah.
Oh, Sarah, hi.
Yeah, hi.
You on this? Yeah.
But also in terms of how do you actually connect with somebody, and when you sort of go a bit deeper, there's a couple of themes that come out. One is that if there's potentially been a bit of a barrier to communication before, it seems to be further aggravated by the physical distance. But also that communication seems to be really successful when both parties are completely brought into it. But if one of them has a bit of resistance or doesn't think it's going to work, it makes it a bit more tricky over things like Zoom. But there's definitely a lot around how do you communicate and connect and coach your team and, you know,
absolutely
build all of that side of things. Yeah.
And I think, and that's exactly a lot of what our research actually showed, is around the potential of the disconnect when people are working remotely, and that huge need for communication. So I'll share some of the data that relates to that. So what we found, so Stuart Desson, he's the CEO of Lumina Global. He's done his PhD in evaluative bias. So that's something that feeds through a lot of our work, which is about kind of really the humanistic psychology aspect of really seeing people for all that they are, for accepting the complexity, for accepting, you know, where we project onto others, but recognizing the need at every single level, even through the questions when people use a questionnaire, that everything is equal and fair. And I'll talk a bit more about that later. So he's done this research. I think he's had about 2,000 respondents globally. And these are just some of the findings briefly. If you're interested, then I'll do another session. He's actually got some coming up. But employer view of some of the key challenges is around leadership adaptability. How well are they able to stretch their style and shift it so that they can lead remotely? And in fact, we've got a whole new, another, like the resilience is one. We've just launched something called Leading in a Remote World, looking at leading self, leading others, leading business, which is speaking to this need. The disconnection of teams, you know, before working, even working together, now working apart, is creating even more emphasis on silo thinking, silo working, not as much collaboration going on, poor communication that Sarah's speaking about, politicking, lack of trust and the impact of that. Another thing that you've mentioned already around mental health and resilience, and there's some real data showing that people are really suffering and challenged right now around at many levels. I'll share more on that in a moment. They're also seeing a decrease in both accountability and productivity. So what do the employees say? So that's the employer, but on the employee side, in terms of their actual experience since working remotely, definite increase in anxiety. And we see that through our Lumina Motion, where we look at, we measure neuroticism, emotional stability, and we're actually seeing an increase in neuroticism and greater anxiety, people feeling more isolated, excluded and lonely. But kind of connected to what Sarah's saying, that people can overcome the loneliness through remote connection if they have that intention. They are feeling more autonomy, and it was also, there's some stats which is interestingly showing how people, well, maybe not so surprising, but I think it's 43% actually want to continue working remotely because they're enjoying that greater autonomy and freedom. But overall, significant less productivity. So not only are employers saying that, but employees are agreeing with that. So less positive thinking, which brings in the whole aspect of resilience and mindset, and the importance of shifting that. So how do we, move from I can't to I can, using all the power of positive thinking, but at the same time recognize the importance of vulnerability, that we don't always have to wear this strong armor, that we can say, I need help right now, I'm struggling. Also finding, the research found an increase in introversion, and that's a risk reactor. That's part of the way that we measure emotional stability, whereas the opposite, a decrease, well, no, it's aligned. So increasing going inwards, which is for me one of the positives of this, when they say, really go inside when you're inside in terms of lockdown, because I am finding that this is a real opportunity to put your finger in the power socket and really get into deep inner work and transcendence even. But we do need to be a bit quieter and go within, and with that, the decrease in extroversion. So less inspiration driven, looking out there, more kind of down to earth, which in itself, that part could be an issue, because there needs to be a moment whereby we're able to step into what's next. How do we co-create the new future? And just these are some kind of more detailed feedback here in terms of some of the results, so you can just kind of skim some.
Nicole, have we lost you?
No, you haven't lost me. I was just talking to one of my beloved children to take the lunch downstairs. But I thought I'd give you a chance to look through some of this output. Yes.
Nicole, yeah, it's Paul here. So just an observation on my side, and obviously my sample is very, very small. A lot of the executives that I've spoken to, possibly more on the IT side in organizations, they've actually found an increase in productivity, not a decrease in productivity. Mm-hmm. But that knock-on effect obviously has its problems, and they are mindful of the anxiety that comes with, or the potential breakdown that comes with working too much. Longer hours, not shorter hours, because of less travel time, that sort of thing. And obviously this is in a South African context, and a small sample within more the technology side of organizations. But they're worried about the knock-on effect of working longer hours, and obviously the productivity is there. The output is significantly higher, but obviously a knock-on effect. So I don't know, maybe.
That makes sense to me. Well, first of all, here you can see number 3, balancing work and home. And I think also the longer hours, I can see for myself, it took me quite a while to you know, I always, you know, I can be quite a workaholic, but I could see that I wasn't having any boundary, and I could just easily work all the way through the night without having those boundaries. So I can see how productivity can absolutely increase. But I also wonder the extent of, you know, your sample being an IT area where maybe people are naturally more introverted, so have less of a need to be, and maybe the work itself also is work that they can do more on their own in terms of coding. And I would imagine, because I mean, in terms of looking at the scores, of course, there is huge variation. And while overall they've said they're finding a decrease in productivity, I would imagine that there must not equally, but there must also be many outliers of increased productivity depending on the industry, the team, the focus. And even within one company, they're probably having some areas really functioning even better than before, and they may continue working remotely, but then they need to manage, as you're saying, resilience, balance, and some less so. But it's, for me, what's really interesting is if this is going to be a longer term shift, how can we really understand the experience now? And maybe this is part of, you know, with every team that forms, you get the forming, storming, you know, norming before they're performing. And so maybe this is just part of the journey, is there needs to be a bit of the breakdown before they break through. But it's also very much going to depend around the whole system, how the whole system is set up. You know, whether it's what level of team communication is put in place, what's the quality of the leadership in terms of connection and building trust and motivating and supporting, and you know, clarity of objectives and things like that. So yeah, so it is interesting, and thanks for bringing that light to say with all of this. Yeah, so even this can be a, you know, quite a big sample. It's still a sample, and it's coming from different countries. I'm sure there'll be cultural differences as well. There's going to be team difference, industry differences, but just to have a bit of a view around what are people potentially experiencing right now. Let's be aware of the full spectrum and see if there's a theme here around where we can focus to make a difference.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, it's, one can say there's more productivity. You know, one can question as to what is the quality of the work that's coming through. You know, we know that that, you know, putting in longer hours doesn't necessarily positively impact on the efficacy of the work that's done necessarily. So a whole host of other things are definitely going to emerge, especially where a lot of organizations are actually gearing themselves up, and obviously once again in a more of an African context or South African context, where they're gearing themselves up not to go back to work. So not to go back to the physical offices. They can't. That office space has now been rented out to somebody else.
Gosh.
Yeah, so that's very, very real. In operations, so in financial services operations as well as IT. So there isn't that option anymore. You will now work remotely. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, and for some great, for many not. And so having that also impacts on, I suppose, stability.
Whole dynamic, yeah.
Yeah, so interesting. I find that it's just amazing what's happening in the world right now, and you know, how we potentially can you know, need to step up to that and to look at things differently. But I do think we need to really start diving into all of these conversations at greater length. So in terms of Lumina, where are we at in relation to some of these issues? So I would say hand and heart, this is what I believe is the impact. So when I look at client sets that I work with, these are typically the impact that we're having. And as much as possible, I love to measure things. So my background as an organizational psychologist, wherever I can, pre and post to impact. But I'm not even asked for that anymore because it becomes so tangible. But the opportunity, sorry, one moment. Thanks. But the opportunity of, you know, really understanding who am I, you know, what are my strengths? How can I amplify those? What are my derailers? You know, where am I tripping myself up, whether it's, you know, impacting my personal well-being, my relationships, my performance and productivity. This part is really critical. We've spoken about resilience, connectivity, you know, again, connecting within, connecting with others, you know, not just within my team, across stakeholders and broader, being really accountable. So accountable for the way I show up, but being accountable for my thoughts, my feelings, my actions. So the whole aspect of, I'm the writer of my own book. What does my next chapter look like? So especially I found that really powerful in South Africa, where there has been sometimes a sense of victim mentality. You know, this is what the environment is doing to me. And then that huge movement to say it's actually totally up to me. You know, all things can happen around me, and the work that we do around perception is very powerful. I'm really sorry. Can you just hold on one moment? I just need to make a request.
While we're waiting for Nicole, I just want to quickly jump into the chat for a second. Faza also said she would have thought creativity would have gone up with people trying to think more outside the box to survive financially and creativity. So interesting comment there from Faza as well around creativity within the times of COVID.
And linking into the innovation aspect. And I'll share briefly one of our innovation solutions. So in terms of who we are, so as you know from also who's on the call, definitely global organization. We're in over 60 countries, and we're translated, so wherever you work, you can take it outside. We really focus on putting the client and the practitioner in the center. So all our work is very much customized in every way. You own it. You know, you can reorder pages, put in your own methodology. It's your logo. So that's something that is very kind of tangible and makes it very adaptable. In terms of our philosophies, we celebrate the uniqueness and the diversity of people. So this whole focus on D&I right now, it really speaks to our core, because it's really about expressing the diversity within, but also, you know, amongst other people, you know, more broadly, and to really value that difference, celebrate it, and then leverage from it. And then to wake up organizations to honor human beings, to move from the human doings to the human beings, deepen connectedness, we've spoken about, effortlessly virtual. So it's been really interesting for Lumina, because we have two kind of motivators or drivers. The one is we're deeply steeped in research. So there's quite a few academics on our team. We want to really understand, you know, the whole part of Lumina that we measure. You know, we want to be the antidote to the labeling of, you know, that happens whenever you have a 4-quadrant tool. So, you know, we measure 24 qualities at 3 persona levels, underlying, everyday, extended. And when we look at Lumina Motion, we actually even give a construct label to each of those. It makes those who know it understand it, but it just gives us an amazing nuanced approach to really understand where we're at, where we need to move, and where we need to shift. And then, so we have the research aspect, and then we have this whole kind of innovative digital technology. So we've got this fantastic team who are constantly looking at new ways that we can help and engage learning so that it's, you know, instant, that it's sustainable and scalable. And I'll share some of those with you as we go through. I did a couple of videos just to try and give you an essence of that. So it's instant value, it's lifelong learning through our digital Spark Coach. I'll give you some examples. So we're looking at developing holistic psychometrics, and we have a range, and our developments are ongoing. We are constantly developing new applications. So these are just a few of them that I've listed there. So we deeply value difference. We have a digital view of dynamic personality, and in summary, it's smart data, but simple language. So the thing that we're not good at, you know, is we're not good at marketing. So we've been around for 10 years. If any of you came across Insights, that was my previous business that I brought to South Africa in 1999. I built that business, but then it wasn't speaking to my inner core truth, which is about really embracing diversity and the greater breadth of who people are. And I felt it was hard to get away from the labeling and stereotyping. So, you know, I do feel, you know, like with Lumina, it really is kind of this greater breadth of understanding. So I'm not sure why I mentioned that. I had a reason and it's just left me. So that's just a little bit about who we are. I'm just going to go quickly into the solutions because I really want to have good conversations with you about it. But in terms of our solutions, so we have our Spark. That's our kind of our foundational tool. And that's really answering the question, who am I? Understand yourself, understand others. And it's all about the communication. And with Spark, actually, we have the Splash app, we have the Team Viewer, we have the Digital Spark Coach. So it's a very big solution. And then we have a whole number of range of workshops that are available for all of our practitioners just to go forth and use in the best ways they can. So Lumina Team, this is where we move into team strategy, where the leader can say, this is our goal. We look at what are the key behaviors to achieve that goal. We map that on our mandala. And then we look at how the actual team culture based on the Lumina Spark, how are you showing up at the 3 persona levels? And we do a gap analysis, and visually it becomes really clear. Aligned here, great. You know, we're really good on follow through, being accountable, getting the job done. But in fact, one of our key focus areas needs to be innovation, or we need to be more collaborative or client centric. And there's nothing happening there. It's just a big void space. And it gets people into clear awareness, and then we go into champions and project planning it. So there's real tangible shifts happen. Lumina Select, assess, select, and onboard. I'll show you briefly what this looks like. So the other two are more about preference. There we move into competence. Lumina Motion, where we look at emotional intelligence, resilience. Lumina Leader, how to build competence to really lead into the future. And this is also a 360 tool. And then Lumina Sales, which is really important now, especially when companies are looking at profitability and viability, to build your influence in your sales capability. So all of these have in common our underlying kind of principles, and they all feed into each other, but they all have their own model. So wherever we go, they've each got their own map, their own set of cards, their own portrait. So they're independent, but they all weave in beautifully. So I'm honing in now to the Lumina Spark as a foundational tool. Please shout out if you've got any questions. I'm going to try and go through this quite quickly. I just want to give you a sense as quickly as I can, so then we can speak about it. So if you want to grab a cup of coffee or tea and just enjoy the show. So Lumina Spark, basically, this is what we measure on the right. 24 qualities at 3 persona levels. And it's all about, what do I want to tune up? What do I want to tune down so that I can fully step into my potential and achieve my potential? It's very powerful also just having that visually. Initially it looks quite complex, so what we do is we aggregate it to 24 qualities, to 8 aspects, and to 4 colors. So we know the limitations of these, but there's also deep value. So the value of 4 colors is around, which all the 4 quadrant tools, especially insights, do really well, which is around the building rapport stage. Who am I? Who are you? What mountaintop do you stand on? Let me get off mine, get onto yours. How can we actually have a real authentic conversation now? Let me understand you. So there's value at the 4. The 8 gives us another level of depth, where we say, okay, I may be 1% on my inspiring archetype, but actually I suddenly see at the aspect level, maybe it's my highest, or maybe there's one quality there that's really strong. And as we move to the 24 qualities, blue may be my highest, but actually when I look at it, I'm really high on it because I overextend and I'm high on underlying, but I'm not using it functionally. So we have to work at this level to really have the right interpretation of the 4 and the 8. So we kind of really focus here, but we do this very dynamic build because we still know there's value. So for example, at the 8 aspects, we have our beautiful Splash app where you can have your splash, you have the person that you need to develop your relationship with, compare and contrast to see how you can use it to really build a greater relationship. So what we have at the moment is, as part of the COVID challenge, is we're offering 5 for the price of 1. So we give people the Spark Portrait, the core tool, 45 pages of nuanced portrait assessing 24 qualities at 3 persona levels, a customized workbook which has a range of applications in there and that can be adapted, the Splash app, which I'll show you soon, which really just opens up for authentic conversation, the Spark Coach, the Digital Spark Coach, which I'm going to give you a quick demo because I was a key member of the design. I initiated this because one of my bigger clients, IBM, they said, you know, they're fine to afford coaching at the leadership level, but what happens when they go deeper? They can't give everybody coaching with their portrait. So they wanted something that was kind of web-based. So that was the initiator of it. So now what we've got is this whole tool where people want to go deeper. It's great to use as a post, if you are coaching them, as a post-coaching session. They can take it on for themselves forevermore or after the workshop. And we've also now developed it for the coach themselves, just to help guide their ability to really access the magic of the Spark portrait. I'll show that to you in a minute. And then the gift is just really, this is what I meant by the COVID related offer, which is really saying, you know, we're all now working at home and, you know, with our families, and that's led to quite a number of challenges. I'm loving my relationship courses, and I'm going to be doing more conversations on that if any of you want to join. But this is to enable, to give a free portrait. It's just a summary taster portrait, but at least it enables them to download their splash accurately so they can compare and contrast. So that's, you know, any partner or family member that you want to develop your relationship, when someone does it, they can also give them a free portrait. So this is our beautiful model, and we use this in all sorts of ways. As we said, measure the 24, and now that we're doing everything virtually, you know, people, I'll show you some examples, but we stamp these, we draw on this all over, and people do their intros with their word clouds in different ways. But we take each of those 24 qualities to 3 persona levels. So we look at your underlying, that's your shoes off self, your natural preference, how we would like to be, and what we like. So this is our being. Then you've got the more serious face, and this is your adaptive self. So this is the doing. And then finally, the overextended. And we say this is when it can get ugly. It's a tantrum, and it's not just the kids who have it. Adults have it often as well, where we, if you think of neuroscience in the brain, where we, prefrontal cortex, limbic brain, and we just flip in a moment. Something's happened, we're not in control, a value of ours has been challenged, and we flip in a moment and we overextend. And this shows us where we tend to overextend. And then we have a beautiful process called the journey to composure, where people walk the mat and they'll say, you know, this is what happens to me. This is my inner talk. This is where I feel it in my body. This is the impact on my personal well-being, my relationships, and my performance. And it becomes really clear that this is where shifts need to take place. And then they look at their everyday qualities, and they go back here and say, look, I'm actually strong on flexible or logical. How can I leverage and call upon that quality to help me out of this overextension? So we call it that we have to activate the spark, and the spark is when we stop, we pause, we take this deep breath, and then we assess the situation and we choose a new way of being. But it's all about calming the amygdala, coming back to ourselves so that we can regain control, regain composure, and make sure that we have positive impact for ourselves and others and performance. So this is what it looks like, you know, at an individual level. It's all about, what do I need to dial down? What do I need to dial up? And you can see this is a leader I was working with recently, and you can see a lot of the overextensions on the reds. So it's their power base. They use their reds well, so they're high every day, but they don't have a limitation on it. And there's not mediation happening on the other side. Sometimes if you have very high reds, but there's some empathy or collaborative or intimate, which is about listening and having one-to-one conversations, that can counteract it. But where that doesn't exist, you get this full-blown red energy, which is about being competitive and controlling and seeking conflict, and too argumentative for these. That, as you can imagine, you know, where does that leader stand today in this new world? You know, it's going to be hard for them. They're going to be quite lost, but they're going to need support around a key shift to see, actually, now we need to really listen. They are not human doings. It's not just about the task. You know, as Will was saying, that the shift from task to the human being, you matter. You know, how can I engage with you and talk to you? And it can be really hard, especially where people are very high on the reds and the blues. Okay, so from a time perspective, I'll move on. This is our digital spark coach, the one I was just talking to you now, the one that we've been developing and we're just launching this week. Very excited. So basically, well, in fact, I'll show you. I put this on a video just to show you how it works. It's always better to kind of to see it in action. So basically there's 4 stages within this coaching process. The first one is you would identify the key issue. Then we move to explore your qualities. Wondering why my video isn't coming on. Let's see if it does. And then, you know, within that you can then, hold on, let me just see what's going on here. Looks like it's playing, but it doesn't look like it's moving. Okay, I'll see if I can come out of this, and then I'll just show it to you live myself. Okay. If not, I'll show it to you. Let's give it one more try. Yes. Okay. So basically, it's now gone ahead, but it's clicked on the it's really not good for me. I'm such a perfectionist, but you can see I'm working on being calm, cool, and collected when things don't go exactly to plan. Okay. It looks like it does work when I do it this way. So if you don't mind just seeing it on the small screen. But once you've identified your key issues, and that's why we wanted this to be ongoing, because people can have a different issue at different moments in time. You can click on Explore Your Qualities. Explore Your Qualities gives you an opportunity to get a definition of the quality. You can get a video, see a video on it, or there's key coaching questions here. So you can see here, I've done this very fast. So these are the key coaching questions, but it does it through basically the patterns. So there are specific, there's specific questions per pattern, per quality. Anyway, I promise you it's a good tool, and it's just a very dynamic way of working with the portrait, so people can do it on their own time. Then we have our Splash app, which is a dynamic way of looking at your splash. Hello. Let's just see if this works. Splash app. I'm going to compare my splash with my husband's Alan in order to show you how to use it and apply this app for yourself. So once you've uploaded it, if you turn to the back of your Lumina Spark portrait, you'll see a QR code. Take a picture of that and it will swallow up your portrait. Then your splash will automatically appear on your screen. You can look at your splash by tapping onto it. It gives you information around each of your 8 aspects. You can click on Read More if you want to look at it a bit more deeply. Then the key value is comparing your splash with somebody else so that you can improve your relationship. So if you look here on the top right, you'll see a button that says Compare. Click on the Compare button, and then there are different ways of sharing, comparing with others. You can either scan their splash code or you can send it to them by clicking on Share This Splash. Once you've done that, they'll all appear down at the bottom on this scroll, and you can select the person you want to share with. So I'm going to select myself, and there we can see at the everyday persona level, mine is in the color. You can see at the top whose is in color and whose is in shadow, and then they can compare and contrast. Now, interestingly, I happen to marry my psychological opposite. So when we compare our splashes, you see this beautiful butterfly appearing. We are absolutely exact opposites. So you see the paradox from inspiration driven at the top, discipline driven at the bottom. Alan's high introverted, whereas my high extroverted. I can just tap on this splash in the middle. And then again, in the same way that you did it for yourself, it now compares your relationship, your communication preferences, and how you're likely. Yeah, I'm actually going to move on just because of time. But anyway, so any questions on that splash app before I move on from that? Hopefully it gives you a sense. It's something very unique, and there's no other kind of assessment tools at the moment that offer anything like this. And we're just growing and growing its functionality all the time. But also what you can do is, because as a user, you would just, you can easily just scan from the QR code. If I'm working with a team, I'll capture the whole team's splashes, and then you'll say, okay, find yourself or guess each other's. And even where they look really similar, they always know the nuanced splash for themselves. I just find it fascinating. And this leads into the team viewer really nicely. So this is a moving system. I'll show you that with the innovation, whereby they move between the 3 personas to see actually how they're showing up. And this is just an example around when they look at their strategy against their key, the critical key behaviors. You can see here, really strong down the bottom, but big void space at the top. But then they'd have 2 leaders look at this project plan. How can we integrate more collaboration and innovation? This is with one of the teams. So this is one application. So we have many diversity, communication, innovation. So this is, and we always have different models that we keep building around it. So this is looking at colorful thinking, but it's looking at ideation plus creativity equals innovation. So it's a really fantastic tool. Let's see if I did better with this video. Yes. So what's really interesting is looking at the 3 persona splashes against these the innovation behaviors. And then here, I'll go back and just show you that video. Okay, so you can just see this is kind of just showing you a little bit around the team viewer. There's much more to show you on that, but you actually get to see where they move. And then when you put the different models around that, to see, well, what does being innovation actually mean for you based on the way that you show up? So I'm now moving, I'm leaving Spark aside now. So you get a sense of what Spark is. This is Lumina Select. It is also based on Spark, but it's used for talent, onboarding, selection, that kind of thing. So you can see here, they get an overview of their underlying and everyday together. So that looks at their effective qualities, and then looks at 16 performance competencies. There's a lot more to this because you get the definition of each one, and you can do a whole job profiling. I'm using this quite a lot now for development as well as for selection, where you can help organizations profile different roles to see what's necessary. We're looking at supporting certain organizations in South Africa around retrenchment to help people find new jobs and things. So it's just a one page, it's very simple, but it gives them a key overview. It's a very cost effective tool. And then there is a fuller process which looks much more in depth, which I won't share with you today. Just a couple of examples, just workshops, just to show you, give you a little sense of how we work online. So we do a card game, just starting with the 4 colors, where people will just do their check-in and share their claimed qualities. People will say if they agree or disagree with the quality that people have taken. Much later on, we look at, people will see what they want to dial up, dial down, and they share. I had an amazing process with an organization recently where, again, the key issues of complete silo working, lack of trust in the team. In fact, don't want to go away too much, but no one here will know the organization, but there were 5 teams within a department all competing against each other very unhealthily. And the level of movement from working with the leaders to then working with the whole team of 50 people, I think was demonstrated by the moment, and Lauren was doing that, we worked with this client together, whereby each leader shared their portrait openly with a whole team, saying, guys, this is who I am, warts and all. This is what you get from me. These are my strengths, and this is why I trip up, and this is why you see this behavior, and this is why I need to change. And then they got feedback. But there's something about the whole methodology that gets people just to be so authentic and just to say, it's okay. Yeah, I'm great, but I'm also can be crap sometimes and I need help. And that's what it means to be human. But let's get real. Let's have a conversation. Let's see what I need to dial up, dial down. Let's see how we can support each other. It's not saying because our team dynamic shows that we're all maybe clustered in one area that we need to now recruit new people and kick people out. Not at all. It's saying that we've all got everything we need within us, but we need the awareness to then make useful shifts and changes. And typically, what they need underlying will exist for someone in the team, but they've just suppressed it. It's a hidden, what we call a hidden treasure, that you can see here, this flexible. No, sorry, that's an amplification. A hidden treasure would be like a high-low, like there's empathy, really high naturally, but hey, I'm not going to show it to anyone because red and blue is what's really important in this team. But now they're recognizing we need your empathy. You've got it, you're hiding it, dial it up, we need it. From now is actually critical for us. So it's just amazing conversations that happen. And then, they said that they could put their QR codes. They let all 55 people in their team upload each of their splashes so they could put them on and compare their own with the leaders of the team. And then we did an exercise whereby we were looking at their two mandala against their key behaviors. This is just an example of resilience, where we look at power of action, connection, emotions, and mind. And part of that was saying, what are your key enablers? What are your derailers? So I'm going fast through it just because I realize I have some pictures there. Okay, all right. Okay, so that's just kind of a whistle-top tour through Lumina. We'd love you to either work with one of our practitioners to support you in any of our solutions, or to join us, which is our ideal, become part of our beautiful community and network. So just listen here, unlock access and make our solutions yours, because you really can customize them all. And we have this wonderful accreditation, virtual accreditation. Yeah, my goal is together we can deepen human connection in our world. I haven't even touched with you really how we do that. This is kind of some of the tools and the playing things, but it's all the stuff in between, which is a whole nother conversation. And those of you who've been on any of my talks may get a bit of an essence of it, but that's shared another time. So this is just some of the feedback we've had. We really have a high standard virtual qualification. Being a perfectionist, always been very possessive and wanting to do everything myself. And it's been amazing just letting go and seeing now we have these amazing global qualifications where people are doing it together, learning from each other, and going through this process whereby actually it's over 28 days instead of having this 3-day intensive. It combines kind of online virtual classrooms with work that you do by yourself. And then there's this whole social platform where people are sharing, and the feedback I'm just having consistently has been that this just really works, and it enables people to more quickly get into application because it's over time and there's opportunity to practice and then come back for more input and broaden. So I'm kind of giving you a whole lot of snippets, but the process itself it's full, but it's also over time makes it more integrative. So this is just an example. This would be kind of the stage 1. You have all these different sections that you can kind of unlock. You go through these processes. There's a gateway at the end. In fact, I did a bit of a video. Let's see if this works. I'm obviously doing something not quite right in my videos, but I'm just going to see just in case it does work. What am I doing wrong? I use QuickTime Player. Okay, well, anyway, what it involves, I can just show you here from this screen, is you click on any one of these. So, for example, if I click on here, the Lumina Spark model, there'll be about 15 different activities, and a lot of them are very engaging, like the Spark Mapper, and you pull the cursor across and you put things, and the system gives you feedback. So, fantastic, spot on, you got it, and it gives you the full definition, and then says, where would you apply it? And if you miss it, it'll say, nearly, have another go. So it's a very kind of interactive session where you have learning, then you play with it, and then there's more in-depth kind of interpretation and sharing. Okay, so that's it basically. That's what I wanted to share with you. So now I can stop share and let's talk. So if everyone, let's click on gallery view, and if you can all unmute, would be great. And love to know what you think, questions, thoughts. And let me just see how long we've got. So, and also just looking at the time, just if you can't put your question out there, can you please put it on the chat? Just love to get some feedback from you around where you're at. And also important for Laura and I, if you are interested in having a follow-up conversation around accreditation, just to make a note of that in the chat so that we can follow up with you. So any chance, more videos on would be fabulous so we can see your beautiful faces. And anyone, any questions?
Hi Nicole, Sarah here again. I'm kind of thinking out loud. The thing that I really like about the tool, well, is the idea of using it for individual coaching and professionals in business. leaders or non-leaders, leaders or individual contributors, but also the team one. But I think I'd be really interested, because I've done the profile, I've got my own profile, but I'd be really interested to see how it works in a coaching setting. So I wonder if you ever do like a session like this where you model a coaching session, for example, or
absolutely
like that.
Yeah, I've run quite a few webinars on that, and I've created a whole kind of slide deck whereby how you can use this for coaching, and each page of the portrait and the story. The main focus is really on the 24 quality page, because, you know, as people are telling their story and their need, that gives us kind of the backdrop. And I would say the biggest value in coaching is the portrait gives you permission to dive deeper in areas that probably would have taken you 3 to 4 sessions to get to. You just see it, it's there, and therefore you've got permission to dive deeper. The other thing is people don't know what they don't know. So when you look at the portrait and you see certain patterns, you'll get a good feel for where some of their issues lie. Look, we know that the individual at many levels, they will give us the meaning, but you can ask a question and they can give you an answer that can sound pretty convincing. Like, yeah, I'm fine here, I'm great. No, my team love me. But because the portrait shows certain things, we know that we've got to ask that follow-up question and maybe another follow-up question. So it enables you to ask really good questions, to dive deep where you need to. So you have the most enriching, meaningful conversation and create tangible shift for individuals. And I've got masses of stories that I can share with you and presentations. And if enough of you are interested, very happy to have a session. And one of you can be the coach and we can, I'm the coachee, and we could just do a live session whereby I'm coaching one of you and you can see how it works live. I've also recorded a few of those. I've got permission to share with you as well, so I can also send that to you if you like.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that as well, Nicole.
Okay, great. So we'll
Nicole, I have also put our email address into the chat bar, so if there is anybody that has any questions or would like some more information or anything that they'd like after our call today, feel free to email us with your questions or requests, and we'll do our best to get to everybody as quickly as possible.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. If I may.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Nicole. I like so much Lumina Learning umbrella and brilliant development of all these different tools.
Thank you.
For Spark coaching and different psychometric tools which will help us during coaching. Could I understand a bit more how to attend some virtual additional learning? Because I'm a Lumina practitioner and I love the mandala and 3 personas. But I think that now it's time to move further and use even more Lumina tools, Lumina Learning tools for the Spark coaching.
So what we could do is we can add you to the Lumina South Africa Practitioner Network group, and then we have quite regular webinars. We look at a number of different applications. We've got about 5 groups at the moment. People who are interested in applications for, remind me, Lauren, for retrenchment, for schools,
leadership.
Yep. Yeah, there are so many different ones all the time that are emerging, and we're all developing a lot of very enriching materials all the time, and there's a lot of abundance there. So very happy for you to join that and to kind of learn and grow with us, because it is ultimately all about working more deeply. And it's also, we're very focused that everybody's got their own wisdom. So it's not about ever saying, this is our way, this is our stuff, use it. This is all just a suggestion. We give you everything that we've got, and then we say, if you need to customize or take things out, you can. So, our vision is to make a difference. And, so that's how we work. I think it really is quite an abundant organization.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Nicole.
Karen.
So I work with, thank you first of all for your presentation, very insightful, very easy to follow as well. So I had a former colleague, Mady, she was skilled in Lumina, and we would like to continue to use it for kicking off with project teams in change journeys that come together, probably oftentimes don't know each other, different stakeholders, different companies, and could you possibly touch upon the difference between then Lumina Spark and Lumina Team? Because I quite like the idea of, hey, in-depth insights into your different qualities and your empathy, what is it you're bringing to the table, and what is it you could probably tap into to facilitate the team development, in comparison to the 3 different persona levels which you have in Lumina Team.
Absolutely. So are you looking, what specifically then is it that you want support around what that design could look like?
Just from your experience, what would be best for them to go through? So is it more the individual, like this is my Spark personality, or this is the team development? Just get an idea of, okay, what
you see, for me it's funny because I've run probably thousands, and yet ridiculously so I redesign every single time. So it's really dependent on what are the needs for that team, what are they going through. I mean, obviously I use the same kind of formatting and the same kind of flow, but the focuses will be different. So, you know, when you say that, I think that they're both really important. And for me, it's kind of like a journey, but then I'll amplify depending on where their need is. So the beginning part, if I take you through what the journey looks like, if say there's a 1 day, the first part would be context setting by the stakeholder that I've groomed beforehand, because it's the energy that they bring in will set the tone for the whole day. So their openness and authenticity. So they'll open it. And then by setting the context, it's really about creating the safe container, which is really important. And the card exercise just seems to shift people into that feeling of safety, that it's okay, yes, I've got strengths, I'll own this, and yes, I can trip myself up. So depending on the issues for the team, if they say we're not being innovative or there's a breakdown in communication, from the very beginning when they're checking in, they're saying, this is the value that I bring in terms of helping communication in the team. And this is where I know I trip communication up in the team. So so just the whole nature of the conversation from the beginning, we're using the model, but we're using it against a conversation that's useful and helpful. So from the initial, we then go into a shift in paradigm, and the shift in paradigm is all about Viktor Frankl. And so our work is based on his quote, which is, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is your power to choose your response, and in your response lies your growth and your freedom. So that means that we are accountable to create the shift from unconscious reaction to a conscious response. Responsibility, ability to respond. So even when they get their portraits, I'm saying from the very beginning, this is a reflection of how you answered that right now and how your being is right now. But actually, we can even change our personality. So from unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence, it's all about new sets of habits that we do repeatedly based on our awareness to show up in a way that we can achieve our potential and create those relationships. So basically, you've got this paradigm shift around accountability. We talk about mountaintops, getting off our mountaintops to see the world from another perspective. 8.5 billion people in the world. That's quite complex. Yeah, we all have a very different way of seeing the world. So we're going to use a lens of color to access the commonality, because there's also some beautiful similarities in us. Then we go into the color model, and we'll do speed reading, building rapport. So now it's all about how can I connect more deeply with my stakeholders. I'll get them to work on someone personal, someone in this team. So all the time we're working on self and team. Then we move into who am I? So you've got to have that deeper dive about self before you can go into team, because people have to own their stuff. They need to know who they are, what's their contribution to the team at a deeper level. What do I give? How do I derail it? What value can I add? How can I trip it up? Where do I need to grow? Who in this team has got the skill set and the talents that I can call upon to help me out? So it's very much around understanding myself, and therefore the contribution that I can make, not just for the team, but also to achieve my purpose and to achieve my best. So what we'll do often is a peer coaching, And if they can't afford one-to-one coaching, then I would recommend they do the Digital Spark Coach and they take themselves on the journey. One-to-one coaching is always much better because, yeah, of course, but even if they have one-to-one coaching, they could still follow through with the Digital Spark Coach. So deep dive about self. Sorry for my very long answer, I'm nearly there. The next move is into team communication. I've missed out the splash app, which is also very important because the splash app, before the portrait is what do I need to start, stop and continue in my communication with you? So that's kind of integrated into the building rapport. So there we've done deeper dive portrait, then we go into team communication. So what I do is I have a whole spreadsheet up. Each person shares, these are my strengths that I've got for my portrait. These are my development areas. These are my communication preferences. And then they get feedback from the rest of the team. And people feedback in a whole new way that there's never been that kind of listening. People are willing to give feedback freely and people are willing to receive feedback. So imagine the value of that, where people have worked together for years and they've never been honest around what they need and want from each other. So they kind of have permission to say things in a way where they, that's non-judgmental, but that's clear and that's received well and heard. So that's very powerful. So you've done team communication, then you go into team strategy, where you look at the team mandala, the team dynamic, how it moves. You look at their vision, their strategy, their key behaviors. You do this gap analysis, and then you move into actions. So there is so much that they gain. I mean, imagine it, for me, I just think they're so lucky. We empower them to change the whole way they live their life with every relationship that they hold, so they can be more purpose-driven and clear on their values. Then they look at how they can build rapport with every relationship again. So now, it's just so powerful. Then it's about who am I, what's working, what isn't. Then it's about how to work better with my team. And then it's team strategy. So they're getting so much within a process, and the model just holds it. Mm. And it holds, my philosophy and need, my purpose is about increasing kindness. And it absolutely increases kindness because it gets people to see it's not about me. There's no right or wrong. People are not doing what they do to annoy me, to frustrate me, to trigger me. They're doing it because they're trying to survive and succeed based on who they are and their mountaintop and how they see the world. So drop your judgments, look for the essence, recognize that language is an insufficient means of communication, actually, and connect to the soul, connect to really what's going on here, and then find ways to communicate it so that it serves both of us. So that's kind of my underlying thing that gets woven through. But the process, I'm very purpose-driven about kindness, but I'm also, as an org psych, I'm passionate about performance and productivity. And I also believe people who are employed and paid are accountable to deliver. And, otherwise they must leave and go do something else. But you've got to bring your full energy. You've got to be engaged and creative. And this process helps people step into that power of deliverables as well. I'm being paid to deliver. If I'm not delivering and working at my best, then I'm actually stealing from my organization. So I've got both sides that I move between, but, and depending on what's appropriate, I'll share that. But I want people to be I want people to be alive, to be on fire, to be engaged, to be accountable, and never to be victim. So I feel this process just helps create that.
Then you actually take people from, so if I understood correctly, from we give you space and time to explore yourself, and then open up that conversation to the team level to then make sure that the strategy we develop together will be the most effective, the most.
I think so. And, even before they go into deep dive about self, they're also looking at the team dynamic from the very beginning, from the check-in, when they look at their word cloud, or they're metaphorically standing on the mat and they're drawing, saying, this is who I am. I'm really great at being highly logical and takes charge. And I'm really weak at being collaborative and flexible. The team's getting to understand that. They're seeing the value, they're seeing their own. So from the beginning, they're getting to understand each other. And then even before they go into themselves, they're doing the splash app. I can say, hey, Karen, this is what we've got in common. This is where we're different. What do you need more from me so we can communicate better together? So everything is a build, which is both self and team. Right. And then it's only at the end where it's a real deep dive around team. I probably could have just said that.
And how much time do you allow for this usually from your experience?
So my ideal is 2 days. Sometimes I'm given 90 minutes. You know, a day is great. If it's half a day, then I'll try and get at least 2 half days. So for me, it's about getting them to see value and to understand if they were to translate that value into bottom line value add, they're more likely to give you more time and make it more of a journey. Because, you know, if you can imagine, what's the impact for an organization if they have a team who were working either in silo or who were working more, not just competitively, but they just weren't engaged, and we are now turning them on and they're being engaged. So instead of them just being engaged and creative and innovative at, you know, where they're probably a leader outside of work at the local sports club, they're now actually coming to work and they're thinking, they're turned on, they're switched on. So I just feel like we're switching on lots of lights. The value to that, I mean, we can increase productivity performance in a very tangible way, which is why I like to measure it. So I've got some studies where I've measured, like for example at Adidas, the one team I was working on had a 32% result in terms of the employee engagement score, and their leader 55%. They were the lowest in the organization. After 18 months, or was it a year to 18 months of working with them, when they did the next employee survey, they were the highest. They were 92% employee engagement and 100% for the leader, who got the employee of the year. So the shifts were very tangible. For them, their biggest thing was, they said, you know, and the FD, who hated the rest of the board at that time, found them so incompetent. Suddenly, he was so engaged with his whole board. The finance department were invited to the marketing Christmas party because they got to understand that it wasn't that the company was stupid. In fact, they were critical. They needed their yellow, red, wild marketing edge for the company to succeed. So the finance, very rigorous, needing their financials reporting, was a necessity, but not in the way that they were making the requests or reporting on it. So they completely shifted the way that they engage with the rest of the company to make the financial numbers work for them, inform them, help their strategy, as opposed to just being both sides being annoying. So there's lots of really great stories where you can see impact and shift. You know, so you can have a whole finance department working or not working to support the outcomes of an organization. So it's significant. So Shoaib, I'd love to hear your voice. Hi. So I have to put my
I'm good, Nicole. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Hi. So I have to see your name properly. I have to. So how do I pronounce your name?
Oh, okay. It's Shoaib Ahmed.
Shoaib Ahmed. Hi.
So very interesting. Yeah, we were in conversation with Zainab, and we were planning to do it for our leadership team and for our one of the team at technical side. So, and my colleague Nida is with me. She can be seen here. Now you can see her.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, so wonderful. We like this Splash app also, and then how teams can communicate with each other on the basis of this. How others, what are the different personality types they have, and how we can communicate or connect them well. So that's important for us.
Fantastic. And knowing that, you know, even though there's different personality types, you know, probably everybody's got what they need, but it's how can you activate the key strengths from the different teams? And just having the awareness creates such a shift around productivity and performance, because ultimately people want to be told they're okay, they want to feel they're okay, and then they'll be much more activated.
Good.
I know we are over time, so I appreciate you all staying a bit longer. You know, we'd love to be in more conversation, so please, either you've got our email address, just be in contact, and we'd love to chat more. And Will, I know you did you have a conversation with Lauren, or did you want to chat to me a bit more on that?
It's done with Lauren, and it's all right.
You're good.
It's all good.
Okay.
Yeah. But just a feedback on the session here. What has come about is what I do siblings conflict resolutions in the families. You'll find that you've got adults at the level of our age, they can never come to understanding. And as you're speaking, I see the Luminous Spark, looking at the 24 qualities, you can actually bring the synergies between the brothers and sisters to start working together. And specifically those that are actually fighting in the business. Just the coaching at that level will be so powerful to bring the business to work together. So, and then parents to try to understand their teenager children's.
Yes.
It's going to work very well. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Good.
Thank you. So if there's any final words or just one or two words to check out, and then we'll say goodbye. Karen, last words from you. Can just be goodbye, but if there's anything.
Bye.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Well, go gently, everybody.
So finally, Lisa also spoke, huh?
Yes.
Good one. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.